Hello everyone, I am Scott Marcus of whatsyourghoststory.com, and ever since I got involved in the paranormal field back in 1999, I've been giving speeches all over the place, whether they're paranormal conferences or at schools, at private events, and I've never given the same speech twice. So if you weren't in the live audience, you never would have heard the speech. And I decided I want to go and kind of re-record some of these speeches to be able to share with anybody who might be interested. And the first one I'm going to do is a really unique one I was asked to do last year for a friend's birthday party that was on today, December 21st, the night of the winter solstice. And the request was talk about any ghost stories, paranormal legends, legends and lore that have to do with the winter solstice. And it's something I love to do, is look up how different cultures approach a topic. And of course, when you talk about the winter solstice, this is something that every culture throughout history in the Northern Hemisphere has experienced at the same time, even though they are separated by centuries and millennia, and of course thousands and thousands of miles, continents and oceans apart. It's really a wonderful human experience that everybody in the Northern Hemisphere has shared to some degree, and it's pretty amazing how united we all are as people. And just so you know, I am going to definitely get into some really wild, weird legends and lore, and even touch on why we should be ghost hunting now, maybe more so than we ghost hunt on Halloween. But let's start at the very beginning of what it even is. It's a Latin word that means sun stands still, with sol meaning sun, and stus meaning ceases. So the sun stands still. And now what happens is, we know, as we get closer to the end of the year, the days are shorter, the sun goes down and rises in smaller increments, and the actual position of where the sun rises and sets on the horizon changes a little bit, until we get to a point today, on the 21st, where it doesn't seem to move at all for a few days. So the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, those days, the sun it's imperceptible how little it changes from day to day, until finally on the 25th, Christmas Day, the sun visibly starts to get higher in the sky and come up at a different area. And here we can see birth of God's Son at winter solstice, and the three stars that make up Orion's belt are even nicknamed the Three Kings. So this is where you get your nativity story of the three kings following Sirius, the star in the east, that directs towards the birth of new light. Then it's no surprise why all of these very different religions have a similar significance to this same date. Because we are talking about the early era, where farming is really everything. Without farming, there is no more life going forward. So 21st, the first sign that the days are going to begin getting longer again, is very spiritually important. So before we get into American and European traditions, let's look to the East. In China, it was the Yao Emperor who made Winter Solstice New Year's Day, which actually makes a lot of sense, that this is the first day of the new sun. It makes sense that this would be New Year's Day. And then Yao Emperor, a legendary monarch in ancient China, ordered the people to observe the activity of the sun specifically. Now, we are talking about around 2300 BC to 2200 BC. So this is a very, very long time ago. And this is where we begin to see some of the first legends and lore having to do with the solstice. As the story goes, there was a very wicked man who died on the winter solstice. And after he died, he became a very angry and evil ghost and continued to harm people after death. However, in life, depending on the translation, he either hated or was afraid of red beans, which I think there's some translation issues here. I would assume he wasn't afraid of red beans, but more so just tested them in life. People to this day continue to cook dishes with red beans in China as a way to make sure that evil entity does not come into their home. From an article written on Michelin.com, like the Michelin Food Guide, they believe red beans had the power to chase away evil spirits. The color of the red bean was believed to symbolize positive energy, or yang, and hence the effective thwarting of dark energy, yin. According to tradition, families first place a bowl of red bean porridge, as you see here, in the ancestral shrine, and then place more bowls of porridge around the house, and the rooms, by the barn, by the well. It was also common practice to smear red porridge on the main gate and the outer walls of the house in the belief that this will help keep evil spirits and misfortune at bay. Many beliefs from this time talk about celebrating and honoring family and taking a moment to remember loved ones that were lost. To me, it's really wonderful and fascinating to think that over 3,000 years ago, maybe even 4,000 years ago, this concept of how we celebrate this time of year was the same in China as it is around the world today. It certainly wasn't called the Christmas spirit yet, but it was certainly the same concept. Okay, it's going to get dark now, and leave it to the Europeans, especially those Germans. We are around the holiday of Yule. We've all heard the phrase the Yule Log. As we see some pagans celebrating Yule in this image here, and we see people dragging a large log into the fireplace here. So the Yule Log was a large piece of wood that burned in the fireplace for 12 days, the 12 days of Christmas. And then a piece of the log was broken off and saved for the year so that it could be used to light the next year's log. It was viewed as a magical and positive relic. However, like a lot of these modern, or more modern, Christian traditions, it was taken from the Celts. And the Yule Log, in this case, is a substitute for human sacrifice. Tonight, December 21st, is also the night of the Wild Hunt. One of the most spectacular paranormal or supernatural stories I'd ever heard of, and I cannot believe it's not depicted in film more because it's so spectacular. The Wild Hunt typically involves ghosts of ghostly supernatural group of hunters passing through the night in wild pursuit. So you'd see this just larger-than-life expedition going across the sky. The hunters may be elves or fairies, or unidentified lost souls or spirits of the dead. And the leader of the hunt is often a figure associated with Odin or biblical figures, including the devil. Seeing the Wild Hunt was thought to announce a coming catastrophe, such as a war or a plague, or at the best case scenario, the death of the person that witnessed it. So you might think, well, there's so much danger in the sky tonight, I might as well go to bed early and sleep through it so there's no danger of me accidentally viewing it. Well, apparently, it was possible that your body, your soul, would be pulled from your body while you slept to join the fray. Ghost Riders in the Sky is a song about the Wild Hunt, and it is depicted pretty well in the movie The Blues Brothers 2000. There's also increased activity of the Draugar on the night of the solstice. And now, as you might assume by the image here, Draugar is a lot like zombies. Actually, it translates to the again walkers, which is a really unique way to say zombie. Except they've got superhuman strength and they can actually grow. So imagine a giant zombie. Really beats the hell out of anything you see on Walking Dead. The Draugar often live in their graves in order to defend the treasure that they were buried with, but they also have been known to enter communities in order to wreak havoc on the living, often tormenting those who had wronged them in life. They can kill by crushing someone with their superior strength, eating their flesh, often eating them whole when they're in their enlarged state, or kill indirectly by driving a person mad. These creatures were said to be able to enter the dreams of the living in order to torment them, and would always leave behind a gift to show the victim that the encounter was real. I mean, there's some great horror movie stuff right there. And that last section was a quote that I will link to directly in the video description. But I think it's fascinating to note that, yes, these are scary zombies that could be gigantic in size, and they can eat people whole. But what caused them? Well, they were wronged in life. Like most historical, mythological creatures, there's a moral to the story here, that maybe if there's somebody that's not very popular, not fitting in, they're an outcast, maybe make that extra effort to go out and befriend them, to fill their lives with some joy, and maybe they won't become a zombie in death. So while these things are wonderfully cryptic, scary creatures, I think there still is a very holiday-style moral to this story when you dig into it, when you sink your teeth into it a little bit, if you pardon the expression. Now, the more I read about these guys, the more they reminded me of another more mainstream modern concept. Now, I don't know for sure that the Draugar inspired the White Walkers of Game of Thrones, but the descriptions are so uncanny that there has to be some inspiration here. Celtic mounds and burial sites are considered gateways where people alive or in spirit form can travel between worlds. On the solstice, the Fae, or fairies, they come over in pairs to haunt us, but this haunt is actually in an effort to help us better celebrate the Yule, to encourage us to engage in acts of kindness, compassion, hospitality, and going beyond our usual conception of what it means to be human. So like, for example, if you were to like this video and maybe share it with a friend of yours that likes this kind of topic, that would be a very, very good thing that the fairies would appreciate very much, and well, I would as well. And by the way, around this time is when the colors of green and red began to come into use to celebrate what we would now call Christmas colors, and they are used to celebrate plant and animal life. And this is a great ghost story, an ancient ghost story that I think we still should be on the lookout. And if you've ever had this experience, I really, really want to hear about it. I'd love for you to comment. Between the 13th and the 25th of December is when we should be on the lookout for the wandering stranger. This is a ghost that comes to you in a dream, usually a weary middle-aged man or woman in some sort of need. It could be a sign that somebody in your life needs help. At night, listen for strange knocks at the door, especially during storms or windy weather. The door may rattle, you may think you hear a voice, not a threatening one, perhaps just a murmur or a single word, but when you go to the door, there's no one there. In Celtic mysticism, it's said to indicate the coming of a mysterious stranger. If it happens twice or 3 times, you might invite the invisible presence into your home, saying, "May the gods who sent you come and bless this hearth." Sometimes a kind of strange rapping may be heard at a window pane on dark Yuletide nights. If you hear it, especially at a window, throw it open and allow the night air to flood briefly into the room. Say, as you do this, "May the mysterious stranger come in and warm him or herself at our hearth." Yes, they'll visit you at home, but not only at home. If you are out alone, walking on a desolate path, especially around dusk or dawn, keep your eyes open for any strange sign of a visage or ghost as you go along your chosen course, as a mysterious stranger is wont to appear briefly to travelers, awakening them to the supernatural possibilities and the mundane rounds of daily life. The stranger sometimes comes and appears just briefly along a path or road you're walking, perhaps standing by a tall oak or willow. Yet when you turn to look, there's no one there. If this happens, say, "Hail, mysterious one, I bless your journey, prosper mine in return." The appearance of the mysterious stranger is thought to signify the presence of divine beings, like gods or goddesses, in your vicinity. By hailing the stranger, you address the deities in their nearness without danger of affronting them, which is so much nicer than similar types of legends about the night marchers of Hawaii, where if you were to come across these godlike creatures, you run the risk of death. But here you just have the opportunity to be in their presence, say hello warmly, and then actually get some good fortune as a result. This is also the night of the rebirth of the horned god in Wiccan and LaVeyan Satanist traditions. This god dies on Halloween and is reborn today. What exactly that means, I have no idea yet, but it is just another thing that makes the solstice a unique one, observed by some modern worshippers. So here's some more insight for any ghost hunters out there. It's said that a rush of spiritual energy is released at the birth of the new sun at dawn on the 22nd of December, as a result of which it is believed that spirits and ghosts become much more active the next few days. And not just that there's paranormal activity out there, but there are entities that are coming over in order to make contact with us. So there is actually an effort on their part to try to reach out to us. And it's a time that we are usually way too busy with our daily lives getting that last minute Christmas shopping done. And generally speaking, not too many people are going out ghost hunting, but maybe this should be the time that we get our shopping done early in order to go and do some investigations. Probably, I would assume, at places that are a bit more personally, spiritually significant to you, places where loved ones might present themselves to you. So this belief comes from a Druidic celebration called Alban Arthurian, which is a seasonal festival during the solstice. It translates to the light of Arthur, the legendary king. It's during these days that the ghosts of relatives and ancestors, lovers and friends usually come visiting. Then, beginning on the 26th of December, all of these discarnates will begin to grow quiet and then depart, going back beyond. And it's actually at this festival where mistletoe begins to pop up in ceremonial ways. The chief of the Druids would climb a mistletoe tree and go up with that spiked blade and cut down mistletoe, while people below would catch it. and it was bad luck. It was considered a bad omen if the mistletoe ever touched the ground. This ideally would invoke prosperity from the gods. Also part of this festival, there would be two bulls that would be sacrificed, two white bulls. Very different from our current connection to mistletoe being kind of a romantic thing. However, mistletoe is symbolic of rebirth, of vegetation that will eventually occur in the spring. Mistletoe is a great thing for that because it does grow in harsh climates year-round. Celtic Druids also believed that mistletoe had medical capabilities that could help with vitality and fertility. In Norse folklore, the goddess of love was trying to save her son. She was able to help revive him with mistletoe. Her tears of joy blessed the plant so that anybody who would stand under mistletoe would never be harmed and should receive a kiss as a token of love. And I really wanted to look up any kind of Native American ceremonies that might have to do with the solstice. And understandably and rightfully, those kind of stories, those kind of ceremonies are off limits. They are not public knowledge. However, it is known, and I have seen it read from coast to coast in America, that Native Americans will spend this day going away from work, spending time with family, playing games, bonding, connecting with family members. Really, again, yet again, 4,000 years later, doing the same types of things that the Chinese dynasties would spend their time doing. It is a human experience to connect with loved ones, to spend this time where it is so dark outside, where you can't get as much work done, to step away from work and the hustle and bustle of daily life, to appreciate one another. So on that note, I will say to you all, happy holidays, happy Yule, and happy solstice.